Hey guys, this is the first podcast that I'm doing. I'm Daniel from Happy Living, and today I'm gonna do it with Teresa Ledbetter. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, you did.
And my goal with this podcast is to share valuable stuff so we can all create a happier life and have more fun. And before that, sometimes we need to get through some obstacles. So today we're gonna talk about depression, my experience with it, Teresa's experience with it, stigmas, recovery. When we'll get the ball rolling. So perhaps it can be uneasy, but would you like to share?
Yeah, I'm actually currently suffering from depression right now. Actually, I have been through a lot of traumas in my life that have contributed to the depression, and I just got to a point to where it had me to where I wasn't doing anything. I wouldn't get out of bed. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to see anybody. And so that's when I knew I needed help and went to my doctor. And now they have me on several medications right now for it that seem to be working well. I take them every day, and if I don't, then the depression kind of hits a bit. And so right now, that's where I'm at with it.
Are you doing any other work to help you out?
Well, I try to exercise. They say exercising helps. So I try to do that. It just depends on the day. Sometimes I feel like doing it and sometimes I don't. I barely half of the time have enough energy to get out of bed because of work, and the depression, but I do my best. And right now, like I said, I'm just taking the medications at the moment.
Is there any practice you want to do, a course perhaps? For me, self-help books have been super valuable.
Yeah, I was going to check in on some self-help books to see if there was any that was of value for me. I haven't done that yet. I've been quite busy with school and work, but that is something on my to-do list to look at.
Something that resonates with you, yeah, because there's a lot of self-help book these days. And when I was depressed, I remember I was kind of fearful to buy into a self-help book that doesn't work, or even had the fear that I'm going to join some cult. But I think a practical self-help book is one that tells you not to believe in anything, just practice, see what works for you. I got plenty of recommendations if you ever need.
Definitely. And it's
every day.
One of those things that you gotta find the right one, and I haven't found the right one yet.
What books did you try?
I haven't tried any quite yet. I've been looking on my Amazon Kindle and stuff for like self-help books and stuff like that, but I haven't really found anything on depression quite yet that would resonate with me. So I am still in the process of finding one.
Yeah, I understand. I didn't take a book about that specifically catered to people who are depressed. I just took some self-help books that these can be really valuable no matter what emotional state you're in.
Yeah.
And like my experience is it can be quite hard to find the energy to start your day sometimes.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes you just want to lay in bed all day, and sometimes that's what I do. Other times I have enough desire and energy to get up and do something, but for the most part, it's still kind of in that era where I just want to be left alone. and I just want to just lay in my bed all day.
Yeah, it can be. Well, the emotions take a lot of energy. They can take
It
a lot of
does.
energy out of you. But what I found is with some valuable practices, and I think there are a few. Meditation is one that really helped me, a daily meditation. Exercise also.
Yeah, I have a meditation playlist that I play every night, that helps me kind of calm down and relax, but it doesn't really help in the way of me having the energy and desire to do things. The medication helps with that a bit, but like I said, for the most part, it's trying to find that desire and that energy to get up and do something. I used to go out with my friends all the time, or I would sit there and I would read, or I would, do something fun and, with my kids or myself. But with the depression, it makes it really hard for me to want to do any of that.
Well, I guess what meditation can help, it depends on what you're doing. If it's a mindfulness meditation, you know what that is?
Yes, and that's what I do is mindful meditation, but it, like I said, it doesn't help with the energy nor the desire.
Yeah,
So
I remember not feeling like I was thinking to myself, like, I don't want to do anything that I liked when I was depressed. Like, nothing really felt fun. I remember
yeah,
the experience. think I think that just being with that emotion of perhaps just being with that emotion of not not wanting to do anything, that emotion
yeah,
without trying to push it away is actually what worked for me. Maybe you can try
yeah. It's there a lot,
just
and
accepting it.
it's rough to, well, and accepting it, it's hard to do that too, because then you get that feeling like you're defeated, like you've been defeated, and
Like you gave up.
yeah, like you gave up, and it's hard to have that feeling as well of like, okay, well, I have depression and so it won. And one of the things is you don't want the depression to win. You want to win.
Well, I think what can work is, so what you think about it is,
In my purse. Get my purse.
what can work perhaps is you go like, okay, I accept that this is here, that I have a part of me that doesn't want to do anything all day, but I accept the acceptance.
Yeah, it's hard to accept.
The acceptance is that it is here, but you don't accept the situation. Well, I guess
Yeah,
a better phrasing is you accept that it is here, this feeling of not wanting to do anything, but you still take the action,
yeah,
That can be something. That's actually what helped me out. I put it in my video on 5 things I wish I knew is acceptance. Perhaps you can try that out, and you don't accept the depression like, okay, I'm gonna be depressed for my entire life. You accept that this is where you're at right now. So,
yeah,
because a lot of energy can be, I don't know what's your experience, but a lot of energy might be used to try to push it away when it doesn't really work.
yeah. And it takes a lot of energy out of you to push it away or to try to fight that feeling that you have it. It's rough, and it's tiring,
Yeah, so maybe just setting that aside,
Yeah,
or at least accept that there's also that part that pushes. You can accept anything. And I find just saying to myself, like, I accept my emotions challenging, uncomfortable, painful they can be, I accept that they are here
Yeah.
right now. I will still take action to recover, but I accept that they are here.
Yeah. And you know, that's hard to do sometimes, is accepting the fact that you have depression, because like I said, it makes you feel like you've been defeated, or like you've given up, or something of that nature. And nobody likes to have those feelings on top of depression, you know. um it it's hard, like I said, just to accept the fact that you have it.
Well, yeah, I guess so, but I think it's important because that's the current reality.
It is.
There's no
and
need to
and
fight it. That's really
yeah, and
something.
I need to get to the point of accepting the fact that I have it and letting it, you know, roll from there. Because I do fight it, you know, and
And that creates more pain for my. It's
it
really
does.
difficult to fight it.
It does, you know, and I know it does, and that's the worst part, is I know it, you know.
So you can
I
accept
just,
that too. Accept
yeah.
that you have a hard time accepting. You can do that. Really, it's really
Yeah,
liberating. I still do it today. I feel some uncomfortable emotion. I accept it. I have a hard time accepting it. I accept that I have a hard time. Just a lot of energy goes to resisting sometimes.
yeah, a lot of energy is in the resistance of it, and it's you know, trying to resist it is even worse than having it, I think, you know.
I agree that that's exactly my experience. The resistance creates 3 times the pain.
And it's almost like it makes you depressed even more, because, you know, you're resisting the fact that you have it, because you don't want to feel defeated, you don't want to feel like you've given up on whatever, and fighting it and fighting it and fighting it, it just takes so much energy out of you. And then, you know, right, I mean, I should just accept it, and I realize that, and I know that I should, but again, I don't want to feel like I'm giving up or like I'm defeated, you know what I mean?
I'll put the should behind the should. I'll let it go.
Yeah.
Just you want to accept it. No should. No need for a should. That's again an expectation. I feel that you want
Yeah.
like that's just how I see it. Perhaps just letting go of the should. Again, that's part of the resistance. I think because now you resist it. You have a hard time accepting it. So just
Yeah. Well, you know, and then
do your
there's
best with it.
well, you know, and then there's the stigmas behind depression that make you feel even worse once, you know, someone says something, and it again, that's more energy that you're using to fight it, you know.
What stigmas, for example, you find?
A lot of it that I find is, well, why can't you just snap out of it? Or, oh, you're fine, just, you know, you need to have a little more fun, or something of that nature. But people don't understand that, you know, depression physically wears you down, and it physically makes you tired and just not wanting to do anything at all. And people don't think that it's something you can, you
Wait,
know,
I kind
get
of
rid
lost you.
of. Like, yeah, I know. I was in my kitchen here for a second. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. It's like the stigmas of, you know, are almost just as bad as having the depression, because you're fighting the stigmas. You know, like I said, someone says, why don't you just snap out of it? Or if you did this, you know, whatever this may
Well,
be, then you'll be fine. Or, or, you know, you don't have depression, you're just, you know, you're fine, you're just having an off day or whatever. And bless you. And I find that sometimes fighting that or having to justify those stigmas is just as bad as, you know, not accepting it, I guess.
Yeah, if someone depressed could just snap out of it, then he'll do it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Then you,
wait, I kind of lost you. Can you repeat what you said?
I said, if you can just snap out of it, then you wouldn't really be depressed, you know? And
Yeah, it's like
it's
with
easier said
anger.
than done. It's easy to say just snap out of it. It's hard to do that.
When you're angry, is it that easy always to snap out of anger? That's an example for other people to understand, is when you feel really angry or really, maybe you experience a really sad day,
Yeah.
it takes skill and practice to be able to snap out of it like that.
Yeah.
With the
And you
emotion, the
can't
point of view,
just snap out of it though, you know, you have to work at it, and working at it sometimes takes a lot of energy, and then you're just tired from it. And I found for me, it just makes me want to not do anything, and it makes me want to just, you know, be by myself and, you know, just be in my bed basically, you know. There's things that, you know, I try to do. Like I said, I try to exercise, and I try to, you know, be physical and do physical activities and stuff, but sometimes that doesn't always work either. So
well, what I found really valuable is those self-help books. It's spiritual books for me. Something like, have you heard of the Four Agreements? The Power of Now? Maybe you heard of it, maybe not. But just, you don't even have to practice anything. I find that just by reading them, you read it from the point of view of someone who is experiencing a more calm, happier life or state of mind than you, I would say. And just learning from seeing that point of view, you see that point of view, it shifts the way you see the world. That's what I find really helpful. You may feel like you don't have the energy, and I may have felt like I don't have a lot of energy for sure, not wanting to do stuff. Also, really often procrastinated reading those books. And it's a funny part,
yeah,
because I procrastinated reading those books, although I knew they would help me out. That's because
yeah,
I think a part of the depression wants to stay depressed, kind of wants to pull you down, part of your mind. Kind of feels
yeah,
comfortable in it, perhaps. Is that your experience?
yeah. That's my same experiences, and that's kind of what I'm dealing with right now, is I'm procrastinating on it. And, you know, I know that they'll probably help me once I do read them, but it's finding the right ones, whether they're spiritual books or self-help books or anything of that nature, and trying to find the right one that will resonate in some form. You want it to resonate with you. You don't want to just read a random book that's not going to help. But
That's the excuse to procrastinate in your mind, I'm asking.
probably, yeah. You know, and that's where my mind goes,
Or
is I
maybe.
need something that resonates with me in order for me to read it. But I know that not all, you know, almost any self-help book will help me, because it will help me to think of things in a different way and look at things in a different way. But in my mind, that's not what it does, you know? In my mind, I got to have a resonation with the book.
Can I maybe tell you about a book? Just the concept. Maybe you'll find that can resonate. It doesn't even have any practices, but it's one of the, just reading that book, it didn't share any practice, I think. One of the most valuable books I read. Wait one sec, I got it here. It's called, I don't get it painted. It's called The Five, you see it upside down, right?
No, I see it fine.
Oh, it's called The 5 Levels of Attachment. I really like this book. It really helped me out when I was depressed because it showed me how my mind works. It doesn't have any practice, just seeing how my mind works. It talks about 5 levels of attachment. It's like something, you know what attachment means? Like
Yes.
some sort of emotional connection, something outside you. And really talks about how attached you are to your thoughts and beliefs in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And it tells the story through 5 levels. Level 1, level 5 is the most attached. I think it's called fanaticism. And that's like, well, fanaticism, are you reading?
Yeah, I've got you.
Fanaticism is, in the example of the book, say, he took the example of a football game. I really like that out. Maybe you resonate with that. So in level 5 of fanaticism, say you're a football fan. If your team lost to another team and you hear some fan of the other team celebrating, you will be capable of killing him. You know, this is the level of terrorists, people who do mass shootings, who murder, but you're really willing to kill for an idea, for someone opposing your idea.
Yeah.
At level 4 of attachment to your beliefs and thoughts, that's where a lot of us at, and that's where I really resonated with this in learning, is that in level 4, our mind, that judgment part in our mind, judges us for not fitting to expectations. So it loves us conditionally. And in level 4, you love others conditionally. You love yourself conditionally. That's where I resonate. I know, wow, I'm loving myself through conditions. Like if I don't fit this expectation right here,
yeah,
I'm gonna bash myself.
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people are. That's probably where I'm at right now, is the conditional part. I think that it's hard for me. It's hard to love myself unconditionally because I have such high expectations for myself that I put the expectations there. And I probably should not do that, but I do. And I think everyone does on some level. Some level they do that.
Yeah, the levels, by the way, it's not fixed. It's not like I'm at level 3. It's more like some beliefs are at level 4. Some beliefs you have at level 3. Some beliefs you have at level 2. You can be a fanatic on one thing. You probably met some people who might be really reasonable in a lot of ways, and then in one subject, maybe politics usually, vegan food, whatever, they can be a fanatic suddenly and really get angry if someone has an opposing point of view.
Yeah.
So that's an example where you have different beliefs, different part of you, different parts of your mind.
Yeah, and I think politics is probably a good example of that.
Yeah.
I don't do politics myself, but watching others, they get pretty heated pretty quickly when they're pretty level-headed otherwise. Yeah. And I think religion is another one. So those are two subjects that I don't really talk about because of the view. There's so many points of views to both subjects, and everyone has their own view. And if someone disagrees with it, then bam, they're blown up. And so I don't deal with those subjects.
Yeah, I understand. I less like to talk about these two, honestly. Depends with who. If I know someone who is just calm, just likes to discuss things out. But if I know someone who is really attached, then I prefer not talking about it, really.
Yeah.
So let's say in level 4, when you fail a test, let's say you fail a test or fail a goal, you judge yourself really harshly, or really what happens is that judge part of your mind judges you and you completely believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Now level 3 is like more like unconditional love. You see, you have the same beliefs. You might be a football fan, but you love all the teams, you love all the fans, you prefer a set team, choose that team, you identify with that team like it's a part of you, but you love everyone in other teams unconditionally. Or if we take the example of failing the test, fail the test, a university test, and you still respect yourself. You may be a little bit down about it, but you respect yourself. And that's the next step. And then if you go to 2, and what I liked about level 2, it gives you absolute freedom. It goes from having beliefs to you choose your own beliefs in level 2. It's not just you love yourself unconditionally, no matter your beliefs, no matter if you wanted to excel at the test or not. You realize you chose those things. Like if you're a football team, maybe, well, I don't know how many people you know watch sports, but maybe someone is like an LA Lakers fan in basketball.
Yeah.
Identifies with that. Like, I'm an LA Lakers fan. Well, in level 2, you realize that you actually chose that one day. So you see the freedom. You can choose whatever you want. Level 1, you don't even care who's playing. You just like enjoying the game.
Yeah.
And I really like that analogy from the book. Perhaps that book would interest you if you want to check it out.
I'll check it out. And it's 5 levels of
attachment.
Okay. I'll check it out.
Ruiz Jr. It's just very basic, explained very well. Nothing, doesn't force you to believe in anything. It makes sense and can be valuable because then you can see how attached you are to your beliefs. When are you attached? And these attachments, they control our happiness, because if we do something expecting a result, it's okay to aim for a result. But if you expect that result and it doesn't happen, now you're unhappy. If you don't just do it for the fun, which can be challenging sometimes, it's a practice, then, well, you had fun doing it. Like this podcast, like 100 people watch, 1 person watches, I'm having fun. If I attach myself, and it can be tempting, if I attach myself to how many views this video will have, then I'm going to be happy like a roller coaster. I'm going to be happy when I get a lot of views, and I'm going to be way at the bottom of the roller coaster when I don't.
Yeah.
Much more fun to be stable, have fun doing it, whatever comes.
Yeah. And that's the way you have to look at it, I think, is whatever happens, because you can't expect too much. You can't do the podcast and expect, all these views and then get down because there's not a lot, but we will see what happens. He's probably in the bedroom. So that's a good analogy there, with the roller coaster. I think that the roller coaster analogy works with a lot of different things.
Yeah, I think so. Like, the thing is, I guess, and I often forget, is nothing is ever gonna match our entire expectations, and you can always create new expectations. But sometimes you get surprises that you didn't want happening, but the same way sometimes you get surprises that you didn't expect and you're really happy about. So surprises can go both ways. We can notice that too, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think that having those expectations, I don't want to say makes things worse, but sometimes it can when you have expectations for things. It can make the situation worse for you, whether whether it's the depression or, a test, like you said, or anything. innately expect the best outcome. And when that outcome doesn't happen, then we get upset or we get down or, something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of a game we're playing, but it can be a fun game.
It's an emotional game that we play every day, all the time, and it takes a lot of energy and everything, but it's what we do as human beings. It's what we do.
So we're talking about stigmas with depression. Do you share it often? Do you share your state often, or how you're feeling?
I try not to, for me, because for me, it's a personal thing. Being depressed for me is a personal thing, and so I try not to let too many people know about that. The people see it, but it's not that they say anything or anything like that. But yeah.
Well, if you take, I know you'll snap out of it, and you practice and you take your time and you do stuff for yourself, for your happiness, and you take that time and you can recover. That's kind of my mission. I really wanted to help more people recover from it, because I know it's absolutely curable. It's absolutely possible.
I sure hope so, because I don't like being on the medications and everything. And, if I can find something that works just as good, I'll do it,
I didn't take any medications. I decided not to. I was really tempted, and there's no good and bad about it. But I truly believe there's plenty of practices that can work.
Yeah. For me, I really had no choice, because it was either that or, with being depressed, I had a lot of anger, and I had to get things under control. And in order for me to do that, I had to go on medications. Being a nurse, I know a lot about these medications. I know what they can do. I know what they're capable of. And I decided to go on the medication because I felt that at the time the benefit was better than the non-benefits of it.
Yeah, they can help. I heard of a lot of cases where they help. But I think also, I think depression is the result of having a big amount of negative beliefs about ourselves. And they're not even true when you really look at it. It's sometimes difficult to see. Everyone has negative beliefs about themselves, and the way I see it, the more you get out of your system, the happier you get, because they really drag our emotional state down.
Yeah.
And finding a practice to help you let go, however the language you use, of these negative beliefs is what works, I think. And don't know how many people address that or not, but that's what I find works. You remove one belief, you have slightly more energy. You remove another, slightly more. You could keep moving them. It's like an onion, and suddenly you look a few months back, and you're like, wow, my emotional change. Like, I still have challenges, but when I look at half a year back, I see, wow, my emotional state is different. Because I took action. You don't notice it in a day-to-day, usually. Sometimes you can just break a belief and you feel a lot of nice energy.
Yeah. But it's accepting that belief and acknowledging it and accepting it, and then trying to work on it. I think that sometimes that's the hardest part, is accepting and, acknowledging the fact that you have this, belief about yourself. Sometimes I find that very hard to do, and sometimes I don't, but for the most part, I do find it very hard for myself to accept and acknowledge these beliefs that I have on myself.
Just to acknowledge they exist, you mean?
Yes.
Or
yeah, to acknowledge that they exist. Yeah.
maybe that's another part, another belief, that part that doesn't want to acknowledge them.
Yeah.
Well,
And and it's hard to acknowledge them, I think, because again, it makes you feel like you're not good enough, or like something's wrong with you, or you feel defeated, or
well, I guess
that.
I once heard someone say it's hard. Well, it's challenging to
Yeah.
acknowledge them, but it's much harder to keep them. It's much harder to keep them in your head. That's the
Yeah.
true hard part. Think about that maybe when there's that procrastination, because it's challenging. Maybe it's work trying to acknowledge them. You feel a lot of pain. You face it. But it's definitely worth it from what I find. And it's much harder to live with them because now at least you're facing them. You can't change what you can't face, I guess. But that's what I thought to myself is maybe we can kind of explore that part together, because I have that part too sometimes. Not saying like these beliefs shouldn't exist, or
Yeah.
not supposed to be. Maybe we can check that out right now and be a skeptic towards that.
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean? Not supposed to be here. What does that even mean? Like, these beliefs are not supposed to be here. That's something you have thought like that?
Sometimes I feel like that, that they shouldn't be there, and I know they shouldn't be there. That's the thing, is I know these things.
Why why should they not be there though?
Well, if they're there, if these beliefs are there, then they wear you down. They put more negative thoughts into your head, and more negative feelings. And then it's just more that you have to fight.
So you don't want them to be there.
Exactly.
I think saying shouldn't may be creating more drama.
Yeah.
Because I guess they're here, and tell me what you think. Perhaps it makes sense that they're there because of experience you've gone through. For my beliefs, they make sense that they're there for experience I've gone through. Doesn't mean that they're real, but
and I agree with that. I can agree with that. I think they're from experiences, and it's rough, like I said, to accept these feelings and accept these the fact that they're there, but you have to. Otherwise, you're just playing this game with yourself that, they're not there, even though that they are.
And what's the avoidance, if you want to share, telling you the part that's trying to avoid facing them?
I think it's the fear. I think the avoidance is fear of accepting them and facing them. And, I think mainly it's fear that prevents that. Because having to face negative feelings it's fearful, and it's scary, and innately people don't want to gravitate towards things that are scary and fearful and stuff like that. So
it says that it's not worth it. Basically, is the assumption that it's better not to look at them, like that it'll make you happier to avoid them?
That's the assumption, yes. Is it the reality? No. You want to face them.
It's not the reality. right?
And you want to fear, you want to face them, and you want to work through them and everything. But sometimes having to do that is a scary thing.
Yeah, it can be, but I think it's something to take note that part is, well, it's not saying the truth, because what will lead to your happiness is facing them. You need to kind of need, it's kind of like perhaps you have a cut on your hand, because these are like emotional wounds, and you have a cut on your hand, and you like, this cut doesn't exist, you ignore it. Well,
well, then it's just going to get infected, you know?
It can get infected.
Yeah.
Address
I
that
think
cut,
the cut is always a good analogy.
you need to put a band-aid, eat some healthy food, which is like reading nice books from my point of view.
Yeah.
And help it cure. Take the medicine.
Yeah.
So this is what I usually do, is like what we do right now for the resistance part, the part not wanting to look at it. I do it for other parts, for the negative beliefs themselves. I say, oh, how true is that? Let's check. Let's ask some questions. Let's not automatically believe everything our thoughts say. Let's be a skeptic of these thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I learned through books like this one, mostly through this author and a few. It's like a family, Don Miguel Ruiz family. I really like their books, and there are plenty more. And the big essence of happiness, I think, is the less you believe your negative thoughts. You don't even have to make them go away. Like, sometimes I have negative thoughts, they can say whatever they want, and sometimes it doesn't even matter for me.
Yeah.
It came to me through a lot of practice, but sometimes they do matter. It's a practice.
Yeah.
But when they don't matter, then I can see, well, they can be here for however long they want. I'm not gonna believe these negative self-talks.
Yeah. And, you know, and again, that's, you know, I mean, using the cut analogy, it covering them up and just ignoring them and everything seems fine at the moment, but then it gets infected and it's just a bigger problem, you know. And I know that doing that, you know, or trying to bury them inside is not good, because then at some point they're going to come out anyway. You might as well work on them and work through them as they come along, and versus keeping them inside. And that's what I'm working on now, is trying to not do that. But I've done it for so long that I just innately do it, and I just, without even thinking, I do it. And sometimes I have to stop myself and say, hey, let's deal with this right now, this feeling or this issue or whatever it is at the moment now, so that it doesn't explode out later.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I think that a lot of people are like that in this, you know, day and age, being 2019 right now, I think a lot of people do bury a lot of feelings and emotions down and don't want to deal with them, because then they have to accept the fact that they have these negative feelings, and nobody wants to accept negative feelings. And so people just bury them down, and then at some point it's going to kind of boil over, and then they're all going to come out and explode and come out. And I think, you know, working on them as they come along is very helpful. And I have to remind myself to do that all the time, because I just innately and without thinking bury things, you know, bury things. So.
Yeah, I realized that happens to me too. Just last week, I found out something new. I did this practice I found, like it's called an emotional release practice, and I found out that I can feel, well, if I really find out from experience that I can feel negative emotions that I buried, like anger, anxiety, etc. Feel them completely and still feel happy. It was an interesting experience, and I realized when I was depressed, it may not be the case when you feel really dark emotions, but just
Yeah.
feeling them, from my experience, is so much better to let yourself experience them, letting them flow, come out, not on other people, just feeling them in your body, consciously doing that. I found it actually, that emotion is much more comfortable to deal with usually than repressing it. The repression itself, I think, creates more emotional pain.
Yeah. And the repression also, I think, takes a lot more energy out of you too, having to
Yeah,
repress those feelings. And I know all this, you know, and I know that I shouldn't do it, but I still do it.
that's
Um, that's
okay.
that's the bad thing about it, I guess, is that I still do it, knowing that I shouldn't.
I wouldn't call it
Um,
bad. It's normal. Like, all of
yeah,
us do that sometimes. Like, sometimes I feel angry. I made a video, does our anger really help us? Well, I know it's
yeah,
not helpful, but it's so tempting when you feel that anger that sometimes it may come out. I laugh at it later to kind of change my point of view about it.
yeah,
No need to make a fuss is how I see it. Like, I reacted in anger, you repressed in emotions. Okay, next time I'll aim to not do so. It's kind of a more practical approach. Again, it's
yeah,
difficult because the mind can say, oh, you're not supposed to be angry, you're not supposed to repress emotions. Well, that's level 4. That's a level 4 attachment,
yeah,
when you say that. It's again not
yeah.
fitting up to the expectation.
And I would agree with that. Definitely agree with that. So, what stigmas have you found around depression on your end?
Well, for me, when I was experiencing it, first of all, I experienced it the first time when I was 13. I didn't even know it was depression. I only realized it later. It, like, the whole year from when I was 13 to 14, 15, literally feels like a blur in my memory. Like, I think I was so much in my head. I have no idea really what happened at the time. And I didn't even know I was depressed. No one even knew. Because we're at 13 or 18 when I had that episode, you can say, when I really learned how to recover from it. I was kind of playing Mr. Happy. Maybe you have that experience. You feel really bad, but you're playing that Mr. Happy guy.
Yeah,
It's like,
and it's worse to try to pretend than it
that's
is to
more energy, so
accept it.
much energy.
It does, and I think being a young teenager, like 12, 13 years old, and having these negative feelings and not realizing it's depression, I think is normal for everybody on some level.
Yeah,
Everybody
you
goes through it.
experienced that. Yeah, maybe.
Um,
I had no idea. I was just so in my head. I wasn't even noticing how, how until years later, how painful my experiences were day to day. I was so unconfident and I was just embarrassed to go outside. I fear going to school every day. Felt
yeah,
like a blur, and I have no idea. I was so in my head, really. I think 99.99% of my time was thinking, negative thinking.
yeah.
Time.
And I think on some level, at that age, every young person is like that. Or they're in their head. They have insecurities. They have um, the negative thoughts of something. Whether it's a small thing or a big thing to them. But I think at that age, that every young person experiences that.
Guess
I don't
so
want
at
to say
some level. Yeah,
I don't want to say everyone experiences depression because they don't, but I think that they experience some form of it
a
in
lot
some
of fear. Yeah, yeah. I think so too. Like even the whether the popular kids or the unpopular ones, it's there. I think there's all a lot of fear in that age of how other
yeah.
people think, and that's
I
part of.
think that they worry too much about what others think, whether they're popular kids, whether they're unpopular, whether they're, sports, whether they're into sports or into other things. I think that at that age, they think they care too much about what people think and try to please other people, that sometimes negative thoughts come into play.
Well,
Um,
yeah, it's the first time all of us. It's actually all around the world when you go to high school, especially at that time when we
yeah,
face such situations and we feel like we kind of have to prove ourselves or something. That's what I feel is my mission, that more young teenagers will know that they can love themselves as they are, and there are practices to create happiness not dependent on other people's opinions, because it's exhausting,
yeah,
trying to
definitely.
measure up to other people's expectations.
Yeah. But at that age, I think that they do live by other people's expectations, and I think that adults do it as well.
Yeah,
I think
like
that
us too.
we all have insecurities at every age. We all have insecurities. It's how we deal with those insecurities that matter. And and for me, I've got to try to not let the negative thoughts come in when I have an insecurity, but sometimes it's hard for me not to have that negative thought, which I'm working on. It's hard, but I'm working on it to acknowledge it and let it happen and everything. But um, yeah,
I guess what I'm learning right now, tell me if you think it will help, is that, and I remember sometimes I still have those experiences. I remember having them, is I'm like, oh, I don't want negative thoughts to come up right now. Like yeah, I'm like rejecting the idea of a negative thought coming and resisting them coming. I think it's much more helpful to save your energy and let them come, but just not necessarily believe them. Just notice that they're here, because I don't think we really have a superpower that can make the thoughts disappear, really.
yeah.
Like it's not like people can go snap and they're gone. They're here.
It would be easy if you can just snap and say they're gone.
Sometimes we think we can, but it doesn't work.
That would be easy if that can happen. Then nobody would be depressed, but that's not the case, unfortunately. And, it's hard not having negative thoughts come into your head, because of insecurities. Everyone has them, and whether you admit it or not, everyone has insecurities, whether it's a small one or a big one. But with insecurities come negative thoughts. It's how you deal with it and how you can work through it that matters, I think. And that's, again, something I have to keep reminding myself to do, is to work through it and everything as it comes along
Not
versus
against
burying
it.
it and ignoring it.
Not against, not ignoring, but through.
Yeah, exactly.
Stigmas of depression for me. I was actually, I guess I can say I was lucky that to whomever I shared it with, they really supported me. And I went to a therapist to really help me out.
Yeah.
I don't
My
know if
ther-
I met many I heard a lot of people maybe talk about stigmas or judge people, perhaps experiencing that as weak of character or anything.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work that way. Like when you feel sad, you're not weak of character. Is there a reason for it happening? The reason can be external, internal, or combined. It can be a negative belief, can be
Mm-hmm.
someone you love passed away, or it can be an external event and a negative belief.
Yeah.
It's not that easy. It can build character, really. Those
Yeah.
differences, they kind of force you to take care of yourself. That's why I hope you learned that too. That I see my experience really as it was a blessing in disguise, you could say.
Yeah, definitely. Um, you know, I find with depression that it forces you to look at your emotions, and it forces you to look at negative thoughts or thoughts in general that come into your head. And it forces you to work through them. But when you're like me and you just innately have a negative thought, you just bury it down, you just forget it, and then you move on. You know, at some point it's gonna explode over, and you're gonna have to deal with them anyway.
But this
I'm,
helps you out.
you know, so I'm learning slowly, but I'm learning to deal with them as they come along. It's hard to do that because you have to accept it, you have to acknowledge it, you know, and you have to do all these things that are very uncomfortable at the time or in general to do.
Well, you can do it. I know it. And think about it this way: that you have really nothing to be afraid of. You're at your house. If I say you decide to face some emotional belief, you're at your house. You're safe. These emotions will build for us. You know, probably heard of it as a fight or flight mechanic.
Exactly.
Not for this time and age. So it's just emotions. Your life is not at risk. There's no tiger coming to hunt you.
Yeah.
Face those fears. And well, magic can happen through time. You can really
Yeah.
let go of a lot of baggage. And I still feel it through time. Through the practices I do that kind of letting go of baggage, feeling more light, sometimes feeling heavier, sometimes feeling lighter. But then when I look at the larger time span of 6 months, for example, I can see, wow, I'm a
Yeah,
lot lighter.
definitely. Definitely. And I agree with that. I think that, you know, everyone has baggage of some sort, but having to work through it is what's most important.
And
And
depression, sorry, continue.
no, go ahead.
Uh, Depression, why I saw it as a blessing is it forced me to face it. It forced me to find a way to be happy. I was suffering so much. It was like it's like be happy or die trying, really. But
Pretty much.
that's the only way, and it forces you to come out of suffering, to find a way, and it's possible. It exists. I knew when I was depressed. One thing I kept in mind is that I wasn't always depressed. When I go back, I wasn't born depressed. I have the capability to be happy, and I was ready to find it out. And it's really hard. The emotions. It feels like you're fighting against a tidal wave, or you don't have much energy. But just taking as much action as you can, find that practice really is what helped me, and what I always recommend is finding a spiritual, however you want to call it, self-growth practice that works for you, helps you change the way you see things at your own pace, and it creates change. And I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have done it if I felt so. Like most people go through their life feeling so. Well, then a lot of them would not be willing to face those things. But depression could force you out from feeling like really, really bad. Say there are people in the so-so group, when you feel really, really bad, you want to go up, and often with time and practice, you can go above that so-so as well.
Yeah.
Create a happy experience for yourself day to day. Just by changing
Yeah.
your state of mind, you don't have to buy anything. You don't have to own a big house.
Yeah. And I agree with that. Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that.
It was fun talking to you, Teresa.
You too.
It was really fun. We'll definitely do it again, honestly. I had fun. It flew by. I don't know how much time passed. But we'll end the show here. The first podcast, hopefully it helped you out, made you feel more comfortable with depression if you watched.
Yes.
And wish you a happy day. Any final words from Teresa?
No, I think that I had fun as well, and we'll do it again. And I hope that this video has helped somebody or will help somebody understand depression a little bit more, and realize that there is ways around it to get better.
Not be ashamed of it. It makes sense that it's here because the fact is that it is here. The point is how we can recover from it.
Exactly.
Now, it's a lot of people suffer from different levels of unhappiness, and we all want to be happy. There's no shame in feeling unhappy.
Yep.
So thank you, Teresa.
Yes, sir.
And have a great day, people.
You too.